The bazaar on Karath, 9 smelled of oil, smoke and sweat. Vendors shouted over one another beneath tarps strung with flickering neon. Jax Rourke walked through the crowd, his hand on the grip of his sidearm, more out of habit than worry. He'd spent his life scavenging in markets like this, half war zone, half carnival. But even he stopped short when he saw the cage. Inside, under harsh violet lamps, a figure crouched. Shackles bound her wrists. Her skin shimmered faintly like beaten gold, though it was marred with grime. A pair of luminous silver eyes lifted to meet his, not the dull gaze of a beast but the sharp, proud stare of someone who had once commanded respect. The crowd jeered, tossing scraps at her feet. "Exotic pet," the trader barked, slapping the bars. "Strong teeth, docile if beaten. A rare prize from the outer systems." She flinched at the strike, though her eyes never left Jax's. Jax felt his gut twist. He had seen cruelty before, but this was different. This wasn't an animal. She was someone. "How much?" Jax asked. The trader grinned, showing yellow teeth. "For you, scavenger. 20,000 credits." Jax didn't have 20,000 credits. He barely had enough fuel to get off this rock. But walking away wasn't an option. He pulled the last of his emergency stash from his belt pouch, 4,000 in mixed chips, and tossed it onto the table. "Take it or leave it." The trader sneered but greed won out. "She's yours." The lock clattered open. Jax stepped forward and offered his hand. The figure inside hesitated, chains rattling, then reached for him with delicate fingers. Her touch was trembling but proud. On his ship, the Wayfarer's Pride, she refused food until he undid her shackles. He expected her to bolt, but instead she sat with a strange poise, back straight despite exhaustion. "What's your name?" Jax asked. For a long while she said nothing. Then, in a soft voice that carried an odd cadence, she answered. "Illyra." That single word held weight. Jax knew the stories. Aurelie exiles with skin like gold. A vanished royal line, scattered when their empire fell to warlords. "You're not just anyone," he muttered. Her silver eyes met his. Was heir of Aurelia. They caged me like an animal. But you," her voice faltered then steadied. "You called me by name." They drifted for days between shadowed systems, avoiding patrols. Word spread quickly on the networks. Bounty placed on a runaway asset. Hunters came sniffing. One night, as the Wayfarer's hull creaked against the cold, Illyra studied the stars through the viewport. "In my world," she said, "we believed each star was a flame carried by our ancestors. To look upon them is to remember who we are." "You don't belong in a cage," Jax said. Her lips curved in a faint smile. "No one does." He realized then that her dignity had never broken, no matter how they had tried to strip it away. They reached a neutral archive on Cavis Station, hoping to prove her lineage. The archive was neutral in name only. Mercenaries prowled the halls, and the local governor had already caught wind of Illyra's presence. In the records chamber, a hologram bloomed to life, showing Aurelie history, gleaming palaces, rituals of light, and a line of monarchs bearing the same silver eyes. "You are Princess Illyra of Aurelia," the archivist confirmed, voice trembling with awe. The words struck Jax harder than he expected. He hadn't saved just a woman. He'd saved a sovereign. But the moment shattered as armored boots thundered outside. "Hunters," Jax hissed. They fought their way back through the station, Jax firing his pistol, Illyra moving with a surprising grace, striking with a discarded staff. She fought not like a slave but like royalty reclaiming her pride. At the docking bay, Jax shoved her toward the ramp. Get aboard. She hesitated. You could leave me. It would be safer. He stared at her, chest heaving. I don't leave people in cages. Not ever. Her gaze softened. For the first time, her hand brushed his cheek. Then perhaps human, you are more Aurelie than those who call themselves kings. The return to her people was not simple. The remnants of the Aurelie lived scattered across hidden colonies, wary of outsiders. When Jax brought Illyra before them, suspicion ran deep. She was in chains, he told them, voice firm. I saw a princess when everyone else saw property. She belongs with her people. The Aurelie elders studied her, and slowly recognition dawned. They knelt, touching foreheads to the ground. My daughter, an elder whispered. Our flame returns. Tears welled in Illyra's eyes, though she stood tall. I was treated as an animal, but this human reminded me of what I am. A princess not for myself, but for my people. The Aurelie embraced her, voices rising in a hymn older than the stars. Jax prepared to leave, not wanting to intrude on their reunion. But as he turned, Illyra's voice stopped him. Captain Rourke. He looked back. She approached, her bearing no longer that of a fugitive but of a ruler. You gave me back my name, she said. My people would call that a gift beyond measure. Be our ally. You saw dignity where others saw chains. That is the kind of strength we need. For a long moment Jax considered. He had always been a drifter, a scavenger with no flag but survival. Yet here was a woman who had endured the unthinkable and still carried herself like fire wrapped in flesh. All right, princess, he said with a faint grin. Let's see what comes next. Her silver eyes gleamed. Not princess. Not to you. To you, I am simply Illyra. And in that moment, under the starlight of her reborn people, Jax realized that what he had seen in the cage was more than nobility. It was the unbreakable spirit of someone who had once been stripped of everything, and yet still stood tall.